Hello dear students, welcome back. This is Joseline and today I am going to continue lesson 5, what is moral action, written by Mahatma Gandhiji. Already we have completed 4 parts. In each part we learned essential things to be called an action moral. If you want to call an action moral, what are the things necessary? In first paragraph, Gandhiji describes that an action to be considered moral should not be a customary. Customary actions cannot be called moral actions. Customary actions cannot be called moral actions because they are just influenced. In the second paragraph, we learned that an action to be called moral should spring from our will. When it is your own act, when you think and act, only such actions become moral action. In the third part, we learned that a good action done with good intention can only be called a moral action. All good actions cannot be called moral action, dear students. Good action must be done with good intention. And in the fourth paragraph, Gandhiji made it very clear. Gandhiji makes it very clear that an action which is done without fear and compulsion can only be called a moral action. Okay, an action should not contain fear. If you do an action out of fear, then that action cannot be called a moral action. Let us try to know what Gandhiji tells us. He's trying to tell us in the coming paragraphs. Okay, let's move on. Just as a moral action should be free from fear or compulsion, so should there be no self-interest behind it. Like how an action should be free from fear and compulsion, in the same way, an action should not have any self-interest behind it. If there is self-interest means our personal interest. If there is personal interest behind our actions, then such action cannot be called a moral action. Got the point, students? So, see, a good act must be done with good intention. A good act must be done without fear and compulsion. In the same way, a good action must not have self-interest behind it. If it has a self-interest, then it cannot be called a moral action. Okay. That is not to say that actions prompted by self-interest are all worthless, but only to call them moral would detract from the dignity of the moral idea. See, Gandhiji says that all actions which have self-interest are not, non-moral actions. Okay, they're not bad. In fact, self-interest is very important. Only if you have self-interest, only then you will be able to do certain things. But if your act is completely, if your act is completely based on self-interest, it cannot be called moral, but it is necessary. See, conventional actions cannot be called moral actions, but they are necessary. In the same way, actions done for self-interest are also very important, but they cannot properly be called moral actions. Already, students, Gandhiji says that honesty cannot long endure. Endure means last for a long time. That honesty cannot long endure, which is practiced in the belief that it is the best policy. See, a man is living a honest life, not because he wants it, because he wants to attract the people. He wants the people to, he wants the people to treat him in a proper way, in a better way. So he is leading honest life, not willingly, because he knows honesty is the best policy. Because honesty is the best policy, he is just portraying, he is showing the people that he is honest. Such kind of honesty, this is called self-interest. You are leading a honest life not because you want to do so. You want to attract the attention of others. You want the people to treat you in a better way, in a different way. And you know the fact that honesty is the best policy. No, honesty is not the best policy. Honesty is the only policy. If you feel in this way, honesty is the only policy, there are no other policies like honesty. Honesty is the only policy. If you have this feeling and follow honest life, then honesty will be definitely the best policy. If you have self-interest, if you want to portray, if you want to show a different kind of life, by being honest, you want the people to look towards you with great attention. You want the people to give you more importance. You want people to treat in a different way. For that, you are honest. Nowadays, most people do this. They behave as if they are honest, but really they are not. Because people believe that honest is the best policy. No, honesty is not the best policy. You must believe that honest is the only policy. Only then your living of honest life would be a moral one. There should not be any self-interest behind any policies you follow. Or let's say Shakespeare, as Shakespeare says, love born out of profit motive is no love. Love born out of profit motive. Motive means reason. If you have any profit, if you have any profit out of your act, if you are expecting any kind of benefit out of your act, then such kind of love, such kind of act cannot be called a moral one. Got the point, dear students? Let's move on. Just as an action prompted by the motive of material gain here on earth is non-moral, so also another done for considerations of comfort and personal happiness in another world is non-moral. See how beautifully Gandhiji explains this concept. Last one, see in the 5th paragraph, Gandhiji makes one thing very clear, that there should not be any self-interest behind your actions. You don't try to be honest because it's the best policy. You be honest because it is the only policy. Don't love for profit. Love legally, literally. And let's see. In the same way, just as an action prompted by motive means reason, of material gain here on earth is non-moral, in the same way, another done for considerations of comfort and personal happiness in another world. What do you mean by another world? Heaven, God's kingdom. Most of us are good. We do good things in order to please God. See, we are pleasing here God as well as human beings. Most of our actions are to please people as well as even God. To gain materially we please people. Okay, and to enjoy comforts in another world. We know that after our death we reach the kingdom of God. And we have believed that if we live a good life here on earth, we will be given a better treatment, better status in the heaven. In God's kingdom. That is, we will be put in heaven. But if we don't live a proper life on the earth, we will be sent to hell. We have this feeling, right? So with this feeling, to enjoy comfort in another world, that is God's kingdom, if you are good, then your actions cannot be treated as a moral action, dear students. Try to understand the concept here. Okay, any action which is done to, gain material possessions, requirements, to fulfill our material requirements, if you act, they are not, moral actions. They are non-moral. In the same way, if you are trying to please God by doing good actions, please God in the sense here, if you want to, if you are doing good in order to enjoy comfortable life after your death in His kingdom, in God's kingdom, then your actions are not moral. See what Gandhi says here. That action is moral which is done only for the sake of doing good. Yes. If you are doing only for the sake of doing good, then your actions become moral. If you are doing good actions to enjoy comfort in another world, God's kingdom, that is heaven, then your actions are not moral. So let's move on. A great Christian, Saint Francis Xavier, passionately prayed that his mind might always remain pure. For him, devotion to God was not for enjoying a higher seat after death. He prayed because it was man's duty to pray. A great saint who lived in the 16th century, Saint Francis Xavier, is a great Christian. He is a saint, in fact. He prayed to God always. He prayed to God every day. Every single minute he offered his prayer. He thanked God. He prayed. The reason for praying is, see what Gandhi says, a great Christian Saint Francis Xavier passionately prayed strongly, with very strong desire, strong emotion. He prayed that his mind might always remain pure. He did not pray God for enjoying better comforts in another world. He prayed God only one thing, that is to keep his mind pure. Most of us pray God, for enjoying better life. We ask God, oh God, give me a big house, a car, luxuries, wealth, isn't it? But Saint Francis Xavier prayed God to keep his mind pure always. He did not ask any comforts. See, For him, devotion to God was not for enjoying higher seat after death. Of course, he never demanded, he never requested God to give him a special status after death. He, of course, he's a saint. He has done a lot of good works. And he did not request God, oh God, I have done very good works. You please take me to your kingdom and put me in heaven. He did not demand this. He always demanded to keep his mind. He always requested God to keep his mind pure. Because he prayed because he thought it was man's duty to pray. We have been created by the Almighty God. So it is our duty to pray. We should not pray to request God to give us a better status after our death. We must pray because it is our duty. Got the point, dear students? Not to enjoy better status. The great Saint Teresa wished to have a torch in her right hand and a vessel of water in her left, so that with one she might burn the glories of heaven, and with the other extinguish the fires of hell, and men might learn to serve God from love alone, without fear of hell and without temptation of heavenly bliss. So these two are very important. Temptation of heavenly bliss. Because man, when we all, in fact, including me, you, everyone, most of us, not everyone, in fact, most of us are trying to lead a proper, simple life, good life, a moral life, because we want to enjoy a better comfort after death. We want to be in heaven. We don't want to go to hell, because we know that in hell there is only fire. Because of the fear of the hell, we are doing good things. Because we know that if we don't do good things here, we will be put in hell. And because of the heavenly bliss, bliss means happiness. We know that if we do good here, we will be put in heaven. We can enjoy a lot there. So because of the temptation of heavenly bliss and fear of hell, if you do good things on the earth, definitely your actions cannot be called moral, dear students. So there was a saint called Teresa. She prayed God. She wished a torch. Torch means burning stick. Not that, Olympic torch made as in burning stick, yeah. So she wanted a burning stick in one hand, that is right hand, and a vessel of water in the left. With this burning stick, she wanted to burn the glories of heaven. And with this water, she wanted to extinguish. Extinguish means put an end to the fire of the hell, so that men might learn to serve God from love alone, without fear of hell or temptation of heaven. So she wanted to burn the glories of heaven. She wanted to extinguish the fires of hell, because she wanted men to love God without any fear and without any temptation. Fear of hell and temptation of heaven. Got the point? Because most of us serve God. Serving God means doing good things here. Most of us serve God because we know that if we do good things, we will be put in heaven. If we don't do good things, we will be put in hell. With this kind of mindset, we are serving God. That is not right. You should not have any fear and temptation. And without fear and temptation, when you do good things, definitely that becomes moral action. So Saint Teresa wanted torch to burn the glories of heaven and a vessel of water to extinguish the fires of hell. So men learn to serve God with love, not with temptation and fear. Alright, let's move on. To preserve morality thus demands a brave man prepared to face even death. Yes, to preserve morality, even we should be ready to face death. Okay, then it is cowardice. Cowardice is opposite of courage. It is cowardice to be true to friends and to break faith with enemies. A moral man will be equal, will be treated equal by friends as well as his enemies. Even, a man whom you call moral will never break faith with enemies. Okay, for example, you take any moral man, of course, every person in this world, maybe moral or non-moral, will have some enemies. But a moral man's enemies too like him. That is what Gandhiji says. If you want to call yourselves a moral one, you need to have faith. You need to maintain faith with enemies also. Alright, let's move on. Those who do good out of fear and haltingly have no moral virtue. That is already made clear. Okay, when you when you do anything with fear, hesitatingly, then there is no moral content in that act. See, Henry Clay, known for his kindness, sacrificed his convictions to his ambition. Conviction means belief. Okay, I'll make it clear. Then Daniel Webster, for all his great intellect and his sense of heroic and sublime, once sold his intellectual integrity for a price. By a single mean act, he wiped out all his good deeds. Henry Clay, Daniel Webster, these two were contemporaries. Got the point? They lived at the same time. Both were popular statesmen of America. Got the point, students? They dominated American politics for more than 40 years, from 1810 to 1852 till the death. Okay, they made people believe that they are very good. Of course, they had done a lot of good things to the people. At the same time, both were very ambitious. All intention, their actions were not intentional. They were ambitious. They cheated the people because their intention was not to do good to the people like Alexander. Their intention was to gain name and fame so that they can become the president of America. Of course, they did not become the president of America, but their intention behind doing good things to the people, was ambition. Like Alexander, spread Greek language, literature everywhere, and today we're enjoying. But his intention was not to do so. His intention was only popularity, renown, name and fame. In the same way, these two, Henry Clay and Daniel Webster, both were American statesmen, politicians who dominated American politics from 1810 to 1852. Unfortunately, their intentions were not good. Okay, see, finally what happened was, I think in the year 1850, both of them supported slave law. Of course, later slavery was abolished in America, but till 1850, slavery was in practice. Black people were treated as slaves. They supported this. As a result, all the good works what they had done till then had gone in vain. By this single act, by supporting slave law, they made the people realize that they were ambitious. They were not good. See what Gandhi says. This shows how difficult it is to judge the morality of man's action, because we cannot penetrate the depths of his mind. By seeing a man, we cannot judge whether he is a moral one or a non-moral one. See, till 1850, most people in America believed that Daniel Webster and Henry Clay, were very good politicians. But by single mean act, by supporting slavery, they proved wrong. So, with this example, Gandhiji wants to tell us that it is not possible for any man to go into the mind, to penetrate, pierce into somebody's mind and see what they are thinking. So, you cannot judge a person by his looks, because we don't know what he has in his mind. Got the point? So, it is very difficult to believe a person by seeing his looks. Got the point? So, that's what he says. See, Gandhiji says, this shows how difficult it is to judge the morality of a man's action, or every action. See, Webster and Clay did many actions which people considered moral actions, but they were not, because their intention was to gain name and fame and become presidents of America. They were ambitious. Got it? So it is very difficult to pierce into the mind of some people and know what they're thinking. So all their actions cannot be moral, because we don't know what intentions they have in their mind. So all good actions cannot be treated moral, because we don't know the intentions behind these actions. Okay. Finally, Gandhi says, we have also the answer to the question raised at the outset of this chapter. Outset means beginning. What question did Gandhi ask in the beginning? See, just recall. When can it be said that a particular action is moral? Gandhi says, we have also got answer to the question raised at the beginning of this chapter, what is moral action? Incidentally, by the way, we also saw which kind of men could live up to that morality. So Gandhiji ends by telling that we have got the answers for what is moral action. What kind of actions can be called moral? I hope you might have understood what kind of actions can be called moral. The final paragraph, Gandhiji Gandhiji ends the lesson with a very beautiful example. He gives example of Henry Clay and Daniel Webster, who were very popular politicians of America, who dominated American politics, but they were ambitious. Gandhiji says it's very difficult to penetrate into the mind. If you don't have the power, God has not given power to any person in the world to enter somebody's mind and see what he's thinking. They were ambitious. So by seeing a book, you cannot judge it. In the same way, by seeing a person's action, you cannot judge him as a moral person. Got the point, friends? So we have understood many things before deciding to call an action moral one. So please go through all the 6 paragraphs thoroughly and understand what Gandhiji tries to tell us. Just understanding is not enough. You try to follow them and in fact, you must become a moral human being. And if you thoroughly read this lesson, I'm sure you will get all the things required to make yourselves a moral one. Bye, dear students. We'll meet soon. Don't go out. Stay home. Stay safe. I request you to watch all the 5 parts again. Try to understand the concepts described by Gandhiji to make a person moral one. Because morality is not a simple concept. Because most of us think all our actions, our way of living is moral. But no. Before deciding any action or any life as moral, you need to follow certain mandates. We have learned many things from this lesson to decide an action as moral or non-moral. Okay, please go through all the videos, read the lesson thoroughly, once, twice, thrice, as many times as possible, and try to become a moral human being. All the best. Bye.